Patricia descended the narrow basement stairs, each step groaning under her weight. The air grew colder. At the bottom, a locked door stood in the darkness. Taped to its center was a handwritten note. She read the shaky letters. "Do not open. The house is fine. We are fine." The owners hadn't mentioned this door. The silence around it felt deliberate, like a held breath. Like a held breath. Her hand reached out, fingers brushing the cold brass knob. She almost turned it.
Number. They left a note for a reason. Opening this door would be breaking the one rule they gave her.
She snatched her hand back. Whatever was behind that door, it wasn't meant for her. She hurried up the stairs, footsteps sharp against the wood. She didn't look back. At the top, she paused and glanced down. The basement was a pit of absolute black. She closed the door and leaned against it. Some rules, she realized, were not meant to be broken. 2 weeks earlier, Patricia pulled up to the farmhouse. It stood alone, a warm kitchen light glowing. She parked and stepped out into the quiet. Only the wind moved across the fields. Slinging her backpack over her shoulder, she walked to the front door. Unlocked as promised. Inside, the kitchen smelled of old wood. A gray cat emerged from under the table and watched her. On the table lay handwritten instructions. Feed the cat, water plants, collect mail, ordinary tasks. But the last line: if you hear knocking on the back door between 2 and 4 a.m., do not answer. Turn on every light in the house and wait.
Patricia frowned. What kind of country superstition is that?
She set the note aside and unpacked. The rule was strange, but she had a job to do. That first evening, she made tea and sat by the window watching dusk fill the fields. The silence pressed in. The cat padded to the back door and sat, ears twitching as if hearing something beyond. Then it was still. She walked the property. From a distance, the farmhouse was a tiny speck in endless fields. She walked the field's edge, staring into the empty expanse. No other house in sight. That night, she pulled back the curtain. The darkness outside was absolute, pressing against the glass.
Nothing out there. Why am I so rattled by a superstition?
The cat jumped onto her lap, purring. Its ears swiveled toward the back door.
What do you keep hearing? It's just an old house settling.
She checked the locks again, her reflection in the window dark and hollow.
The Haydens left clear instructions. They knew about the knocking. What else don't I know?
Driving out for groceries. The road cut through fields that didn't seem to end. No other cars. By the second night, she sat stiffly in the dark, waiting. The silence was worse than any knock. On the third night, a sound tore through her sleep. A heavy knock on the back door, loud, insistent. Patricia jolted upright. Her phone read 2:10 a.m. 2 hours until the rule allowed silence. She remembered the note. Get to the lights. Her hands shook as she fumbled for the switch. The hallway lights blazed. She rushed to the kitchen, flipping every switch along the way. In the kitchen, all lights on, she stood rigid. The knocking kept coming, steady as a metronome.
Don't answer, just wait, they said. Turn on the lights and wait.
The cat was nowhere. Only the knocking echoed through the empty house. At 4:01 a.m., the knocking stopped. The silence that followed felt like a held breath. Patricia didn't move until dawn grayed the windows. Then she checked every lock again. Outside, the field was empty. But the back porch held a secret she would find at sunrise. At sunrise, Patricia stepped onto the back porch. The wooden boards were wet with dew, and there, stark against the grain, were muddy boot prints. They led directly to the door. Heavy, deep impressions. But they didn't lead away. No return prints. She pulled out her phone and took a photo. Proof that she wasn't imagining things. Back inside, she sat at the kitchen table, typing an email on her phone. Her fingers were cold. She described the knocking and the footprints. Then she pressed send and moved to the living room to wait. Within 2 hours, a reply came. Patricia read the email, her coffee gone cold. The email read, "We're aware. Please continue as instructed. The house is safe if you follow the rules." She read it twice. No apology, no explanation. They'd expected this.
They knew this would happen. They knew, and they hid it from me.
She unpacked her bag. She would stay. Whatever the reason, she wasn't leaving yet. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat stiff in the kitchen, all lights already on. Then the first knock came at 2 a.m. exactly. Through the small window in the back door, she saw only darkness. But at the far edge of the field, a faint silhouette shifted. Behind her, the gray cat hissed, a low, guttural sound. Its fur bristled and it bared its teeth at the door. The knocks came again, heavier this time, shaking the door frame. Patricia stumbled back, heart racing. The lights blazed in the hallway, the kitchen, the living room. Every bulb in the house was burning. Patricia stood by the sink, watching the clock on the wall. The minutes crawled. The knocking never stopped. The knocking never stopped. She couldn't look away. The door seemed to pulse with each impact. The cat had vanished into the shadows. The cat sat rigid a few feet away, ears flat, a continuous growl rumbling in its throat. It knew something she didn't. Then, as if a switch had been flipped, the knocking ceased. The clock on the wall read 4:01 a.m. When the silence returned, Patricia dragged herself to bed. But sleep never came. She lay staring at the ceiling until dawn. By morning, Patricia was at the laptop, searching for anything about the Hayden farm. Local legends, old news reports, nothing surfaced. Only positive reviews for the rental appeared, all praising the peaceful countryside. None mentioned the back door. She tried calling a friend, desperate for a lifeline. The voice that answered was garbled, then swallowed by a roaring static.
Not even a signal out here. I am completely cut off.
Later, she parted the kitchen curtain. Outside, the field looked too perfect, too silent, like a painted backdrop. Her reflection stared back from the dark window, pale, sunken eyes. A stranger. In a drawer, she found an old photograph, the farmhouse and a family from another time, their faces grim. No one smiled.
Why would anyone live here? What do you know?
The cat slowly blinked, then turned to face the back door again. The message was clear. That night, she sat alone in the lit kitchen, waiting for the knocking she knew would come. The walls felt closer. That night, the knocking started at 2 a.m., harder than before. The door bowed slightly with each impact. In the corner, the cat flattened its ears. A low growl rumbled in its chest, but it didn't hiss. It just watched. Then, at 4:01, silence. Patricia dragged herself to the wall calendar, red marker trembling in her hand. She crossed off the date. Only 5 more nights. The countdown was a countdown to leaving.
What if I just opened it? What if the knocking stops forever?
Her hand moved toward the deadbolt, but the note's words flashed behind her eyes. Do not answer. She pulled back. Then a sound from below. A heavy thud, like a fist hitting a wooden beam. It came from the basement. She pressed her ear to the basement door. Another thud, slower, more deliberate. It was waiting. The cat bolted upstairs, its paws skidding on the wood. It would not come back down. The Haydens had rules for outside. But no one said anything about the inside. That morning, Patricia emailed the Haydens again. Her question was simple. Is there anything else I should know? The reply came faster than she expected. Her coffee was still warm when the notification chimed. The message read, "You are doing well, Patricia. Just keep following the rules. We'll be back soon." She reread the words. You are doing well. Not a question, not a reassurance, a judgment.
They're watching me. They've been watching this whole time.
She pushed away from the table and checked the windows. No cameras that she could see. But the feeling didn't leave. She looked at the calendar. Half the days were crossed off. The pattern was the only thing that made sense now. Turning on the lights, waiting, surviving. That was the ritual, and she was part of it, and she was part of it. That night, she didn't wait for the knocking. She turned on every light before midnight.
If I just follow the rules, I'll be fine. That's what the note said. That's what the email said. So I'll follow the rules.
The 7th night of knocking passed like the others, tense, lit, and silent after 4:01. But Patricia couldn't rest.
I need to know what else is in this house. The thuds, the cat's fear, it's not just the knocking.
She flicked on the basement light, a bare bulb that buzzed, and descended. The air grew colder with each step. At the bottom, past the dusty shelves and old crates, she found it. A heavy wooden door fitted with a bolt lock. A note was taped to the center. the same shaky handwriting. Do not open. The house is fine. We are fine. Her hand rose to the knob. The metal was freezing. She felt the lock give slightly under her touch, then a thud, loud, from the other side of the door. Something was right behind it, waiting.
Number. The note is for me. The knocking rule is for outside. This is a different rule. Don't open.
She yanked her hand back and retreated up the stairs, not looking away from the door until it was out of sight. At the top, she slammed the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. She now understood. Her job wasn't just to wait out the knocking. She was guarding something. That night, Patricia couldn't sleep. The image of the basement door haunted her every time she closed her eyes. A faint scratching sound drifted up from below, like fingernails on wood. It came from the basement.
It knows I was down there. It knows I almost opened it.
She pulled out her phone and searched for local legends. The results spoke of thresholds, of things that needed permission to enter.
Some doors aren't meant to keep things out. They're meant to keep things in.
The lure of the unknown pulled at her. What if opening it ended everything? What if it just needed a different kind of rule?
Number? The note didn't say knock back. It said do not open. The Haydens aren't fools.
She forced herself to recite the rules out loud. Feed the cat, water the plants, never open the basement door. A prayer against the dark. The scratching subsided, as if the thing below had heard her decision and accepted it. The house was quiet again. For now, she had won. But the desire to know would never fully leave her. On the 8th night, when the knocking started, Patricia didn't flinch. She walked to the hallway and flipped the switches with steady hands.
See? That's all it takes. Just follow the rules and nothing bad happens.
The cat was in her lap, purring. Its eyes tracked the sound, but its body stayed relaxed. Even the animal was learning the ritual. She checked the locks as she always did, but without the old panic. The deadbolt clicked into place with a satisfying finality.
The light is a barrier. It's not just for me, it's for whatever is out there, and for whatever is down there.
She poured a cup of coffee and sat at the table. Through the window, the dark field was empty. No silhouette tonight. The lights were working.
We're doing a good job, aren't we? Keeping the house safe.
2 hours later, the knocking stopped. Patricia didn't even glance at the clock. She just kept stroking the cat. The fear had been replaced by something else. A quiet pride. She was the guardian now, and the house trusted her. She didn't need to look outside anymore. The rules were enough. In a dream, the basement door swung open without a sound. A darkness that breathed reached out and pulled her forward. She felt herself cross the threshold into endless cold. Her own scream woke her. Gasping, she ran to the basement. The door was still locked, the note still taped. Her trembling hand touched the knob. She could end the mystery now, but a weight pressed against her chest. The note's words burned. Do not open. Then she saw the clock. 1:50 a.m., 10 minutes until the knocking. The ritual needed her. She released the knob and sprinted upstairs. Flipping lights, the house blazed to life. At 2 a.m., the first knock came. She stood in the hall, chest heaving. She fixed her eyes on the clock, not the basement, until the hands moved past 4:01.
I almost opened it, but I didn't. The rules held.
The final night came. Patricia flipped the switches before midnight, her movements practiced. The house blazed. At 2 o'clock, the knocking began. She didn't flinch. It was just another part of the night now. She sat with the cat in her lap, counting the knocks. 2 hours had never felt so long, and yet so short. When the hands hit 4:01, silence crashed over the farmhouse. Patricia felt an unexpected pang of loss. She crossed off the final day on the calendar. The long ordeal was over, but she didn't feel free. In the morning, she packed her suitcase. The room seemed to watch her, already missing her presence.
I kept the rules. I kept them all, but part of me wants to stay.
She fed the cat one last time and took a final walk through the house, her hand brushing the walls. She didn't go near the basement door. The note was still there, and she knew. Some rules never ended. She waited on the porch, suitcase at her feet, watching the road for the Haydens' car. The ritual was done, but a new one was about to begin. The Haydens' car pulled into the driveway, dust blooming behind it. Eleanor Hayden stepped out first, her calm smile firmly in place. Thomas followed, silent as ever. Patricia stood and greeted them. She forced herself to mention the knocking, but Eleanor only nodded, unsurprised.
You followed the rules. Most house sitters don't last the full 2 weeks.
She said it as if discussing the weather. Mr. Hayden watched in silence, his eyes moving over the farmhouse.
What is really out there? What have you been hiding?
Nothing you need to worry about. The house is safe if you follow the rules, and you did beautifully.
Then came the offer. Triple pay if she would return next year. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication.
Triple pay to live through this nightmare again, and yet, I want to.
Patricia hesitated, then nodded. She accepted the envelope. The Hayden smiled, and it was done. With the heavy envelope in her bag, Patricia drove away from the farmhouse, already knowing she would be back. 1 year later, Patricia sat at the kitchen table, unfolding the same handwritten instructions. The cat rubbed against her ankles. She set the note aside. The rules were memorized. The cat took its place on her lap, purring. Before midnight, she walked through the house, turning on lights. Every room blazed, a familiar comfort. At 2 a.m. precisely, the first knock hit the back door. Patricia didn't startle.
It's just the house's heartbeat, slow and steady.
She propped a book on her lap, the cat dozing. The knocking continued, but she read on, undisturbed. At 4:01 a.m., the silence returned. She closed her book and stretched. In the morning, the footprints were there again. She didn't need to photograph them. She knew. She spent the rest of the stay in easy routine. Night after night, the knocking came and went.
This is my life now, and I am not sure I want to change it.
4 tally marks scarred the wall, each one a year spent in this house. Patricia traced them with a finger, then shrugged off her coat. The gray cat was already on the table, purring a welcome. She lifted it and buried her face in its fur. She turned on every light an hour before midnight. The house blazed, a defiant star in the black fields. The knocking started at 2, a steady thud. She sat reading, the cat asleep. The sound was like a lullaby now.
I've stopped counting. The nights blend together, but I am not afraid anymore.
Around the 10th day, she went to the basement. The bare bulb hummed. The locked door was there, unchanged. She peeled the note from the wood, the paper soft with age. The words were still the same.
Do not open. The house is fine. We are fine. That's all I need to know.
She pressed the note back against the wood, turned off the light, and climbed the stairs without looking down. The farmhouse stood in the dark field, a single light in the kitchen. The years had claimed her, and she had let them. On the 11th night of the 4th year, the knocking had a different cadence. Faster, almost urgent. Patricia felt the change before she saw it. She glanced out the window, and her blood went cold. A dark silhouette stood just beyond the fence line, close enough to see its outline. It had never been this close. She could make out the shape of shoulders, a head, but no features. Her mouth went dry.
It's never been this close. It's never been this close.
She lunged for the extra lamp in the corner, fumbling with the switch. Another pool of light flared to life. The silhouette seemed to hesitate, then shifted a step back toward the field. The light was holding it. Patricia didn't move until the clock struck 4:01. She kept her eyes on the shape until the knocking stopped. At dawn, the prints on the porch were deeper, the mud still fresh. They led to the door, but stopped right there.
It's getting bolder. The rules still work, but for how long?
She added a permanent nightlight to the porch. The old ritual was changing, but she would not be the one to break it. The Haydens' car pulled up the drive. Patricia met them with her arms crossed, the porch nightlight still glowing.
Something has changed. The silhouette is at the fence now. The knocking is harder.
It's acknowledging you, Patricia. That's a good sign. You've earned its respect.
Thomas Hayden stepped forward. For the first time, his voice was clear and certain.
The house needs a keeper. Someone who follows the rules. You are its keeper now.
The words landed like a key turning. Patricia glanced out toward the field, where the silhouette stood stark against the dusk.
5 times the pay. Every year. You won't have to worry about anything else.
And if I opened the basement door, would that end it?
You mustn't. That door stays shut. It's the only rule that ever mattered.
Patricia nodded slowly, then reached for the thick envelope in Eleanor's outstretched hand. The deal was sealed. She drove away, the heavy envelope on the passenger seat. In the rear view, the farmhouse shrank until it vanished. In her apartment, she circled a date on the calendar. 6 months away. Then she drew a second circle, just to be sure. She opened her phone and scrolled through photos of the farmhouse at dusk, the kitchen light glowing warmly.
I can almost hear the knocking. It's like a heartbeat I miss when I am away.
She zoomed in on the kitchen window, half expecting to see a silhouette. The photo was empty. The months crept by, marked only by the shrinking gaps on her calendar. Everything else felt like waiting.
The rules, the lights, the cat. It's the only thing that makes sense. Everything else is noise.
When the day finally came, she packed lightly, just a few clothes. The envelope was already in her bag. She drove through the familiar empty roads, the fields opening up. The pull in her chest grew stronger. The farmhouse rose on the horizon, and she exhaled. She was home. The 5th year, she arrived before sunset. The farmhouse stood silent and dark, waiting for her. She set her bag down and walked to the basement door. The note was still taped to the wood, unchanged. Without hesitating, she descended the stairs. The bare bulb buzzed to life above her. At the bottom, the locked door waited. Her hand rose to the knob, fingers trembling. A knock exploded from the other side. So loud, so close, she felt the door shake. She stumbled backward. A second knock followed. Then a third, angry, insistent. It was not asking, it was warning. Patricia fled. She didn't look back. Up the stairs, through the hallway, she flipped every switch she passed. The kitchen blazed to life, every bulb burning. She stood heaving, the cat watching from under the table. She didn't go back down. Not that night, not ever. The basement door would stay shut. The keeper's job was to follow the rules, and the most important rule had just reminded her why. On the final night of that 5th year, the farmhouse blazed against the dark fields. Every window glowed with yellow light. Outside the kitchen window, pressed against the glass, the silhouette stood. A tall, featureless shape, waiting. Inside, Patricia turned a page of her book and stroked the cat's gray fur. She did not look up. Her eyes flicked to the dark shape against the glass, then returned to her reading. Her expression was calm. The cat purred, a steady hum that matched the distant rhythm of the knocking that had stopped hours ago. The house held her in its quiet grip. The rules were followed. The lights burned on. From outside, the farmhouse was a beacon in the endless dark, a fortress against the thing that waited. The silhouette never moved, but its presence was a constant, a sentinel, a partner in the endless ritual. Patricia closed her book and leaned back, content. The night would end, and so would the next, and the next.